Sorry about that. But thinking about going back, during those times in high school, they were very depressing times. Went to school every day, did my homework like any other student. I was not the best student, in my opinion. I was like a B and C student. I did get involved in clubs. I did get involved in, some sports, but I was more of the water boy during those times. I did track and field. I did cross country. Those I did myself, but I also was involved in teams as like the water boy. They were called managers. Um, and I was involved in that. But ultimately in high school, I wasn't looked at. You know, I was heavy. And I think about this because I look at men in general, where, women choose men, heavy set guys, fat. And some of these women are quite beautiful. And you're like, well, what do they see in them? And I know that sounds really bad. Like, I'm sure they're good guys. Personally, I just, in my own opinion, I just feel like people who are heavily overweight don't look their best. They're not their healthiest. And some of you out there may say, well, I don't have any health problems. Yeah, other than the fact that you have 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 pounds overweight, which is not healthy, right? It's unfortunate that we live in a culture that's more accepted today. And part of it's not our fault. Part of it is the culture we live in because of the abundance of fast food and things out there that there's just so much that people can eat that where it's not the healthiest kind of food for us. And many people don't want to cook at home. My mom cooked a lot. She cooked almost every day. She cooked meals. There was no portion control. I could have second helpings, third if I wanted to. No one stopped me. The problem is that I didn't really exercise. I wasn't, yeah, we had gym in school, but it wasn't like to the point where it helped us lose weight. It was just to get us out, right? Playing basketball or something, or doing other things. But there was no focus, right? This is what you're gonna do. You weren't on a plan. Mom would make the my favorites. Steak picado. Some of you don't know what that is, but it's really just steak with onions, bell peppers, tomatoes, and then she'd make a side of rice, right? Hungarian goulash, love that. My mom used to make that. Spaghetti, and very traditional American meals, hamburgers. She would do roasts and do turkeys during the Thanksgiving and hams during Easter, and she would do all that, all the fixings, everything you can imagine. So we didn't eat out that much. And part of the reason is because my grandfather didn't want outside food. So she cooked for him too, obviously. So she always cooked. She devoted years of her life to cooking for the family. Years. And I appreciate that. I'm thankful for that. I actually learned how to cook myself from my mom, watching her. I don't require my wife to cook for us. She has a very difficult job where she's tired. I don't fault her for that. I don't make her. I don't want to be one of those husbands that forces their wife, their spouse, to cook. I will find a way, whether it's buying food from outside, which I know it's not the most healthiest thing, but I try to find healthy options out there, and they exist, right? There's a lot of fast food restaurants that are doing their best to provide healthier options, right? You know, the basics: chicken, rice, beans. I eat a lot of that. Chicken, I eat a ton of chicken every day almost. Um, it helps me with maintain muscle mass because I'm focused on my health. I'm focused on weight lifting. I'm focused on being stronger. And I see the difference in my body um, by trying to maintain a consistent routine of eating those things. It would probably be a lot better if I just took out a lot of the carbs and ate less carbs, because I eat a lot of carbs sometimes. Now, carbs are not necessarily a bad thing, but if you eat too many of them, then it becomes a bad thing. Like, I don't really eat sandwiches. I'm not a really big sandwich person. I do eat a lot of rice regularly. I do eat a lot of pollo loco, you know, because it's pretty quick and it's fairly decent. And there's days where I eat the bad stuff in pollo loco. There, in my opinion, there's like mac and cheese and things like that, but it's decent. But I eat a lot of salads, um, chicken. I do eat carbs like tortillas at times. Um, I drink a lot of water. I drink about, look at this, drink about 3 of these a day, which is about, I don't know how many ounces this is. Can't even see in here. It's a pretty good, but I have my Crystal Light in there. I can't drink plain water, you know? I'm not a real big plain water kind of guy. I have to mix Crystal Light or some energy Crystal Light in there that has caffeine in it, keep me going, right? Love sweets. I have to cut down on the sweets. I love cookies, ice cream, but I don't eat that every day. I do have a cookie every day, like a small little cookie from Trader Joe's. They're like this small, you know? So it's, you know, things like that. I love red vines. I eat 1 of those a day or 2 a day, you know, maybe. But again, my diet's pretty consistent. If you were to watch me and watch what I eat, I track everything that I eat. You would see that exactly what I eat. I use an app for that, and it helps me maintain it. I monitor my weight every day. I weigh myself every day. I have a consistent workout schedule. So like, I do have a rest day, like on Wednesdays. Thursdays I have I go to the gym and then I work certain parts of my body. Like Thursdays will be thinking, I'm trying to remember here. Thursdays, I believe, oh, that's my back day. Do the pull, do back. Fridays, now I'm trying to. Fridays is, oh no, you know what? I'm sorry. Thursdays is chest day. Fridays is back day. Saturdays are usually my shoulders, and then Sunday is arms. And then the other day, Monday, Tuesdays, I usually do cardio. And then I usually try, because I do the home gym, not here. My apartment has a home gym, 2 of them, and I usually try to go to one of those again to do like other heavier lifts, you know. So I try to do that. Keep me going. I don't really have a leg day. Like here in our apartment, we don't have like a lot of leg equipment, so I usually have to do body weights, legs, or I have to do like the core bag or something like that to keep my legs. But it's nothing like where we have actual big machines to help us like that. Like they don't have that here, which is fine. I do like those leg machines, but I don't really necessarily find it necessary for me. I'm not a bodybuilder, you know. I'm not. But I know it helps. But ultimately that's kind of my routine, right? But what I was saying earlier is, my wife struggles and she wants to leave her job. She feels and I believe it too, there's a great deal of discrimination that goes on there. In her job, she's mistreated, she's bullied. The managers there kind of enable it. And the reason why I feel it's discrimination is because comparing her, who my wife is, Latin descent, and compared to her coworkers who are mostly Caucasian and white, they're treated very differently. They're allowed to get away with things. They're allowed to not wash the dishes and sweep the floor. And you may be like, well, what's wrong with that? Well, why? Because you know what, you get tired after you being told time and time and time again, the same people: clean the floor, wash the dishes. Well, I want to do this. I want to work on this. Oh no, we don't want you to do that. We have other people for that. And treat her like excuse me, treat her like a damn wetback, right? Excuse my language. Some of you may not like that language, but I feel that's what wetbacks are treated like. They're basically, and some of you find that term derogatory, and I'm sorry, but it's just like they're like slaves, basically, right? Latin slaves, and I see it in the culture, and even in our society here, where they refer to Latin people as wetbacks. And we also, for many of you who may not know this, I think it was back in the 40s, our U.S. government actually has a program called Operation Wetback, right? The U.S. government, right? And I know the times are changing. It's like, Joseph, you shouldn't be calling people that, and I know I shouldn't. It's not a good term. My grandfather would be rolling in his grave because he's Mexican. My family's Mexican. My family is Puerto Rican in them, right? I guess I'm part of the problem. I admit that. I'm trying to change my views. I'm not a racist. I don't hate people. But in reality, I don't like my heritage. In a way, I'm embarrassed of it. I'm sorry, Grandpa Moses. I'm sorry. But I'm embarrassed of being a Gutierrez or whatever, that name attached to me. I know Meyer is my name, but that last name is part of me, Gutierrez. And it's only hurt me throughout my life. My wife doesn't see this, but she says, well, Joseph, you're American. You were born here. You don't have the problem of discrimination. I do, actually. It may not be to the extreme effect that she does, but people look at my skin color, which is, it's not white, obviously. They see, maybe my last name, that I don't look Caucasian. Obviously, I'm not fair skinned. I don't have blue eyes. I do see people, especially in the company I work for, which be allowed opportunities because of probably they're Caucasian, or, for that reason. They're treated with much more respect, in the sense that their words, how they do their jobs are much more appreciated. And even though I do a good job, I don't get always the recognition. Right now, in my company, we have a very diverse workforce. White, black, Asian, it's very diverse. And I appreciate that. But within the nitty-gritty of that diversity, certain people you notice are singled out for management positions, higher up positions, and many of them, if not 90 to 99% of those, are Caucasian, right? Now, I don't know. That's just my feeling. I may be wrong. Maybe that's just my perception. I could be wrong. And if I am, I'm wrong. That's just what I believe. But ultimately, with my wife and what she goes through, she wants to just quit. And I want to be the husband to let her, but I feel like the bad guy. I feel like I tell her, no, just wait, look for something else, because we have responsibilities. We have bills. And would we be okay for a short time? Probably. I think ultimately maybe she needs a vacation. She needs time off for herself. That's part of the problem. And I have no problem with that. If she wants to take a couple weeks off or whatever, that's fine. We'll be okay. We won't necessarily break the bank. But anyways, I try to be supportive to her. But I end up feeling like the bad husband here. The one who's not letting her just quit. And it hurts me. And you could see my face that I do feel hurt. I want my wife to be happy, to feel at peace. Physically, mentally. Because I see when somebody's burnt out. But I'm afraid myself. And I just don't know where to go to this. That's my thing I think about. People struggle through this every day. She's not alone. People go through jobs every day where they struggle with these same type of feelings. The problem is, we are a Christian family. And although we're not, we're still humans. We go through the struggles. I try to guide my wife that, God has a plan for her. God has a plan for her. And we have to stick to his plan, and that soon things will get better. I always believe that. She's been at this job for over 2 years. Her manager wants to make her a manager. But what's really hard about this is that many times the people that she's worked with, especially Caucasian, who've been there maybe a couple months, less than a year, 6 months maybe, were given manager positions. And most of them are Caucasian, young kids. Some are as young as 18. My wife is a little older than me. And she just sees that the big difference in how she's treated, right? Because I believe it is. So I try to support her. I'm trying to move as quickly as I can on my side so I could bring more money to the table. And just recently I had my evaluation, which went fantastic. Got a pay raise and everything, and even stock options, or addition to stocks to what I had before. So it's a good company. I'm happy there. It's not easy, but I've learned to have a more positive mental state and try to be more positive in my job, because I was ready to call it quits there a few months ago. But things have gotten better. I have to stop being so fearful at times and just let God handle my life and stop trying to take control, right? I think for those of us who are believers in Jesus and God, most of us have to let go of things and stop trying to take control so often. And oftentimes we do. We try to take control of things, right? So who knows? what's going to happen. We are much better than we have been in years. The hardest years were probably between 2014 to 2018 when we lived in my father's house, or which is my family home. My grandparents grew up there, or raised my father there and his sisters. But that house was old, disgusting, bug infested, roach infested, rat infested. But we did our best. And during that point in those years, living there, which was rent-free, by the way, we still had to deal with that every day. We had to put our daughter, or I did, through that trauma. Because to this day, she's fearful of bugs, those things like that, right? Because she would see it so often. And this may sound disgusting. Imagine, if you will, you lived in a house where, you have these big water bugs. And I know there's a difference. But there were water bugs and roaches, right? They were like this big, right? Big ones. And there was even one that was flying at one time, right? And we would see them every day. On the walls, in the kitchen. Sometimes you'd be sitting down enjoying watching TV or something, and one would fall on you. Right on your shoulder, right here. And go. How would you feel? Some of you may say, well, you got to get the hell out of there, Joseph. Well, that was the hard thing, is that I was struggling financially at that time. I had to get out. Eventually we did, but it was tough. We don't deal with that now, thank goodness, but outside, whenever my daughter comes across like a bug or a roach or something, she freaks out. She runs. I know, I don't blame her. But it was a horrible situation. Not only that, we lived with my wife's nephew and his wife and kid, and my dad, in that house for many years. It was a hard situation. Not only that, there was a spirit that dwelled there, spirits, I should say, that dwelled in that house, evil spirits that would, at night when we were sleeping, would bang on the doors, would try to intimidate us. It was scary. And especially when I used to go to the garage and just go in the garage. I still get it today. In my garage here, I've brought a lot of old things from that house that I still keep today that I'm throwing away. And when I would go in that garage to just whatever, clean or whatever, move things, I would get these horrible rashes all over my body. Things would bite me. Could have been spiders, but this is the weird thing. Even today, is that a lot of that old stuff that I brought from my dad's house, I believe there's something attached to it. There's a spirit or something. But what's weird is, like, when I go in there and throw stuff away, like the other week ago, I had an old a brand new bag to put trash in. I went to the garage, I cleaned it out, threw a lot of things away in that bag. I kid you not, probably within a couple hours, that bag was falling apart by itself. There was something eating apart that bag. Some type of creature, bugs, I don't know what it is. It's invisible to the eye. I don't know. And then I always have to take a shower. I always have to make sure I bathe, get those old clothes off, go wash them, because I don't want to be carrying around those things. So these are things that I go through, right? Let me see what's the devotion, because I always, you know what, I know many of you may not be Christian, may not be believers, But let me see here. What is it? 22nd, right? May 22nd. Let me see what the devotion is today. God is always faithful. You come to me with a word, with a spear, with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have... I'm sorry, my eyes are... defied. 1 Samuel 17:43. Sorry. When the army of the Israel faced the giant Goliath, they were dismayed and afraid. None of them had the courage to face their enemy's champion. None of them except a young boy named David. When Saul doubted his abilities to face their enemy, David told him that he believed God would deliver him from the hand of the Philistine. Growing up as a shepherd who had to protect his sheep, David had faced obstacles in the past, and God had helped him overcome them. When David was saying to Samuel, I know God provided for me in the past, therefore I trust him to provide for me now. Our past experiences prepare us for what we will face, and every challenge we overcome with God's help, the more. He prepares us for the future. David could look back and see how God had provided for him. So he had no doubt in God would provide for him with what he needed to defeat Goliath. As we face obstacles, we can always remind ourselves of God's faithfulness by looking back at what he has already helped us accomplish. I say amen to that. You know, and this was, for those of you who don't know, this is a book I come off, Strength for Today by David Jeremiah, right? So that's where I get a lot of my strength from, but also I get in the Lord, because I do work to be in the Bible regularly, but that's my one source to kind of keep it going. I also listen to devotionals, listen to, messages on, like, from Harvest and, David Jeremiah and different pastors. But other than that, everyone, as you could see, at first I didn't want to come and talk to anybody. I guess I had a lot on my mind after all, right? So what I'll do is I'll finish up today and say thank you for all of you who are here with me, who've continued to listen to me, listen to about my life, my struggles. We all have the strength to do good things. We all have the mindset, the abilities to be strong. Now, if you're a Christian, that's even better, because we put our strength and faith in the Lord to accomplish what we need for this life. Because it's a pretty sad life at times, isn't it? There's things going on in the world. This society is so wrapped into materialism, greed, sex, a lot of different things that are not helpful to all of us. Every time I go online now, what do I see? Oh, the Kardashians are in a bikini, or, oh yeah, this artist is doing something crazy, or this musician or movie star, or, they're whatever it may be, you name it, you've seen it. And people are drawn to that. People are watching it every day. It's just a distraction, folks. A distraction for what's to come. In reality, our world is dying. Our culture is dying. The way we treat one another is with respect is dying. And in my opinion, there will be a point one day when there's no rule of law. There may be rule of law on paper, but people are not going to follow that. And people are not following it today. Because those we put into power don't always follow it themselves. So you may say, well, why should we? Why should we follow the rule of law if the people that are the creators of that, or so to speak, the ones who are supposed to be defending that, are not defending it? You know, I live in California, so you hear about people being put in jail for, and then they're let out. No bond, right? We have a no bond, I believe, here in California, and especially Los Angeles system where, you know, if you get arrested, you don't need a bond. They'll let you out, you know. I don't think they let out anybody who's a murderer or does anything horrific, but, you know, if you, like, I don't know, steal a car or something, you know, they'll probably let you out, you know. Not a great system. Sorry. I always tell my wife this. Forgive me. People will say, we live in the greatest country on earth. The greatest country. Unfortunately, I believe we don't live in the greatest country on earth. Not that I hate this country. I love living here. But we're not the greatest country on earth. We're actually a country of hate. We're actually a country that is full of racism and for one another, for man, women, and child, for one's skin color, for one's ethnicity, for one's background. That's the country that we're becoming, or have become. You know, people I see, and especially in our government, senators, for instance, are trying to eliminate history. Eliminate that things existed. Racism. Things like slavery. I'm just waiting for them to try to eliminate that the Holocaust didn't exist, you know? To say, oh no, that didn't really happen, that the facts are not there. When there's pictures, there's people. Unfortunately, many of those who were in the Holocaust who survived, many of them are, you know, in their 90s. They're dying. Natural deaths, of course, many of them are. There are history there. They're leaving. They're the ones who say those things exist. I know it exists. I've seen the pictures, I've seen the movies, I've seen the videos, I've seen everything. We have actually a museum of tolerance here in Los Angeles. Just that reminder of that history. But our history here in the United States, which I know we've been around, over 200 years, has not been great. Starting with Christopher Columbus to Native Americans, and it has just escalated from that point. These are things that people don't want to believe. These are things that even many senators do not want taught in our schools. They don't want America to look bad. But unfortunately, our history makes us look bad. And we haven't really learned from our history. We really haven't. Because we continue practicing it and it just keeps getting worse. And there are those people who want to justify that behavior. Well, you know, they didn't know any better. The human nature is that we should treat each other with respect, but people don't anymore. That's leaving. It's unfortunate. And we as people who live by the rule of law, who depend on the police and other things to protect us, who follow the law, don't always feel protected. We feel like we have to defend ourselves. I certainly do. Thank goodness nothing's ever happened to me. But I never know when that day will come, right? But anyways, these are deep thoughts in today. Thank you for all of you who've joined me today. And I actually added a new picture here. You can see that. I have Rambo right there, right? I have Rocky and Rambo. Rambo is the perfect example. I know he's fictional, of a man who went to war for his country because he loved his country. His country forgot about him as a Vietnam vet. In reality, many of those who fought in Vietnam are forgotten about. Yeah, we say in this country, yeah, well, God bless the veteran. But many of those people who say that today were actually smearing the veterans in Vietnam. putting him down. And one of the things that I remember in one of the first, Rambo 1, First Blood, he talks about when he's at very at the end, talks about how he's called baby killer and all that, right? And the lieutenant was just almost justifying it in a way. It was a hard time for everybody. But no one cared about Rambo, did they? It's still happening today. It really is. See, these random thoughts come into my head. But anyways, everyone, thank you for being here with me. I just want to wish all of you a happy Sunday. May it be a blessed and productive one. And thank you for joining me on this Just Talk with Joe Meyer. Thanks, everybody. Bye.